Hey friends, my name is Joey and welcome back to my channel, Gender Not Found. Usually I would have my necklaces on, but it's actually really late at night right now. And my mom's still gonna be up for quite a while. She's taking a shower right now. She's like about to get in the shower, and then she's still got work to do, so I decided I would come in here and record for a little bit. And honestly, as far as this goes, being stuck in my room isn't the worst thing that's gonna happen. Honestly, I don't care. I don't care how late it is. I want to record, and I honestly just don't care. So whatever. Like, yeah, it's whatever. I know I've complained before about like being stuck in my room, but there was other shit going on, and it wasn't like just being stuck in my room. I mean, yeah, it's not fun, like, when my mom, comes home, like, has to be home on a certain day when there's an inclement weather day or something else that I didn't know about, and suddenly she has to stay home randomly. But it's different when I, like, decide to do it myself. And we talked about, the next time that she stays home, making sure that I can record in the living room like without being disturbed by her. Sorry, this is annoying. My the computer guy like updated everything, and he downloaded some software on my computer to help with all the bugs and stuff that was happening to my computer, because I told you they had to do a complete clean sweep of it because there was all this like malware on it. So the guy like went all out, and I asked him to, and my mom basically like texted him on my account because I asked her to install the exact same software that was on my old computer, and it's going to run out in a year and a half. And he says when it runs out in a year and a half, he'll reinstall it for half the price. And it was like it was about $150, and I paid about half of that. I gave my mom $75 for my part. And the rest of the money is going to be going towards something else because I still have quite a bit of money in my savings account. And I definitely have more than $137, so name change is going to be my first priority, and then after that, we'll see if I have anything else that, I don't know, maybe I want to use it for. But regardless of anything, um, yeah, regardless of anything, I just want to record tonight, and I will talk to you guys a little more about what I've been doing tomorrow, but I really don't want to talk right now. Like, I did want to go through the whole malware thing, but I don't want to talk right now. I just want to get into this. So, yeah, we're gonna be reading Trying to Impress Matt, and I want to do at least like 3 chapters and maybe 4, um, depending on like how late my mom's gonna be up, because yeah. Okay, so at least 3 chapters, and these chapters are pretty short, like, they're about 10 minutes per chapter, so my mom said she's gonna be up for like an hour, hour and a half, so we're gonna definitely be able to get through at least 3 chapters, so I wanna do this. If you hear running water in the background, it's my mom. There's nothing I can do about that. I wanna record. There's noise in the background, whatever. We share a house, it's gonna happen. That's why I try to record on her like off hours, like when she's at work and I'm home alone, but that can't always happen. Also, I completely forgot to record stuff for this weekend, and my Friday was pretty busy because we had a lot of stuff going on, and I had a thing with Carrie Ann, and then I had a meeting with my support worker, and obviously me and my mom did our like usual Friday stuff. We like played games and watched TV and hung out. So
Bleh.
regardless of like trying to, you know, I didn't get to record anything, so I apologize that there's been no videos for the past couple days, but it just didn't work out the way. I think I think it's only been like 1 day since my last video, or maybe 2 days. I don't know. I don't remember. I'll look that up after, but I have been doing like, I know I've been doing more often like these massive uploads. Like, one of them was 2 hours, and I know the more recent one with like, I think 5 different chapters of A Guardian Angel was almost 3 hours long. And then I also posted like half an hour of Trying to Impress Matt, that brought it up to like, that brought it up to 3 hours, and I did that too. So, You guys have nothing to complain about. You're still getting tons of content, even if I miss a day or two sometimes. But I completely forgot to, record videos, and I couldn't exactly do it on the weekend, especially since my weekend's been like incredibly busy. Yesterday, me and my mom did our usual Saturday thing, and we went to grocery shopping and stuff. And also, today I had like a reptile expo first thing in the morning. So basically, my mom woke me up and we literally left right away and we went through the Tim Hortons drive-through because I didn't want to have to worry about making breakfast at home. So my mom worked it out in advance so that she would buy me breakfast at Tim Hortons and we got food, which was really nice because I don't get that opportunity a lot. But anyway, alright, I'm gonna read this now. We are on. Sorry, guys, I'm a little like sniffly. I feel like I feel like having the rats around has made my allergies a little bit stronger. I feel like maybe I have like a slight allergy to my rats. Like I don't get a rash or anything when I hold them, but I do. I do have a little more sniffles ever since they came home a week ago. So okay, so yesterday I didn't get the chance to kill him, but I did succeed in dragging him to the shopping center near my house to buy me a brand new book today. I smiled widely because now this was an excuse for Matt and I to be alone together. If I knew the book was going to be this expensive, I wouldn't have held on to the book in the first place, Matt teased as he handed me my new book. I gladly took it and placed it in my bag, excited to finish reading it when I got home. Please, Matt, we all know that you needed an excuse to get me alone again, I joked, causing Matt to smirk widely. I'm not the one who threatened to expose my collection of those sexy women to my parents. He looked at me with an expression of disbelief, but then shook his head. I think you wanted to get me alone, he mused, smirking slightly while grabbing my shoulders and directing me down the escalators. I blushed slightly, glad that I was in front of him so he couldn't see me as we made our way down the escalator. How hard did I hit your head? I asked innocently, remembering how I hit him in the back of the head when he was making fun of my book. Hard enough to get me to buy you a new book. He shuddered when I laughed aloud. He shuddered while I laughed aloud. Vampire Academy is worth it, though. Anyway, where are we going? I asked Matt, who was leading me towards a cute little dress store. I was a little confused as to why we were entering this store, but one look from Matt told me that there was a reason as to why we were in here. I'm buying you a dress for tonight. He looked at my confused face and smiled widely. Did you forget about our father's work party tonight? He asked me with a smile that was increasing rapidly. I willed my heart to stop stammering in my chest, but it didn't work. So I opted to look at the light pink dress which was placed directly in front of me. I forgot that your dad worked in the same courtroom as mine. I didn't see him when I was working there. I told him as we began to walk around the store, looking for a dress that up until now I had no idea I would be wearing for tonight. Yeah, he had to work in another court because there's been a lack of superior court judges or something. I looked at him with a surprising look on my face, which caused him to raise his right eyebrow at me. Why are you looking at me like that? He asked wearily. I just didn't know that you paid much attention to your dad and his work. I shrugged, while I looked at a long black dress which had a low neckline. What makes you say that? He asked again, but this time he looked very curious as to what my answer would be. I stopped looking at the dress and turned to face him. I had to lift my face up to meet his eyes, which always caused me to blush and look away. I just always assumed that you and your father weren't close because you're always at my house. I stuttered away. When I had turned to look at him again, I saw a light smirk making its way onto his face, but it was his dark eyes that held sparks of amusement or interest which caused me to look away again. What an interesting observation, he finally muttered. I turned to look at him again, but he looked away. Before I had a chance to continue the conversation, a lady in her mid-20s, with light brown hair and dark brown eyes, made her way towards us. Matt was still looking away, but when the woman asked if we needed a hand, he finally turned around, staring at her with interest. I felt a pang of something within my chest, but heavily ignored it by listening to Matt mutter, We're after a dress for a formal occasion. After a few minutes of mindless chatter between Matt and the sales assistant, I interrupted by explaining the sole purpose as to why we were here to begin with. Matt had a small smirk plastered on his face, while the sales assistant looked irritated, leaving Matt behind to look for a few dresses for me. Finally doing her job, I quipped angrily as I took out my phone to check the time. It was just after 2 in the afternoon, leaving me enough time to look for a dress, purchase it, and get ready for tonight. Someone's jealous, Matt whispered against my neck. I shivered slightly as I watched the hairs on my arms raise a little. I'm not jealous, I told him angrily, but even I knew it was a great big lie. I'm just trying to prepare the amount of time until we get home. You do realize it takes time to get ready, especially for this occasion, I added bitterly. I know what you mean, he agreed almost instantly, causing a small smile to appear on my face. Okay, hon, I've got a few dresses hanging in the dressing room, if you would follow me. The sales assistant from earlier told us as she ushered us to follow her. As soon as I walked into the dressing room, Matt walked in with me, which caused me to smack him across the back of his head. He swore quite loudly, which made both the sales assistant and I to glare at him. Sorry. He smiled towards the woman but glared at me in return. What? You're not watching me get changed. Go wait outside. I motioned for him to get out of my stall, but he held a small smile of amusement. But I never get the chance to see you in your bra and underwear, he whispered in my ear, causing my hands to tremble slightly and my heart to race eccentrically. Well, maybe if you. I took a hold of his hands, mostly to stop mine from shaking, but also to feel his large hands in mine, and brought it down to be placed on the sides of my hips. Maybe if I do what? I knew he was playing along with whatever I started, but I could tell he was clearly getting excited when I touched his chest sensuously. Maybe if you got out. I pushed him out of my stool and quickly locked the door, willing my heart to stop racing. Stool? Why, you little. Matt, no swearing! I cut in while I giggled extensively, taking my top off in the process. Why do I always fall for it? He asked angrily, but I laughed in response. After a few or so minutes, I had the first dress on, which was slightly big from the sides and back area. Excuse me. I unlocked the door only to witness the sales assistant and Matt talking to each other. Clearly, I was jealous, so I did the only thing I could do. Matt, can you check if this is too big on me? I questioned innocently. He looked at me with a raised eyebrow and I sighed loudly. Please, Matt. I knew he was being difficult because I pushed him out of the stall, but seriously, did he really need to be in with me? I guess I could check out how you look in that dress. He stated it in a way that made my blood boil. It was as if he was insinuating that I should be privileged that he is helping me figure out if the dress is big or not. I plastered on a fake smile, which earned me a catty look from the sales assistant. Matt looked between the two of us and smirked widely as he started towards me. I held in my breath as Matt looked at me up and down. His smirk faltered a little until he motioned me to turn around. I did as I was told, but when I felt his fingers press lightly into my back, my body trembled as I sighed in pleasure. My body trembled as I sighed in pleasure. Immediately, his fingers left my body, and I had the sudden urge to turn around and place his fingers within mine. Don't like it. Try on the other dress, he stated in a bored tone, but when I turned around to look at him, the shade of his eyes turned a shade darker. I remembered that look from when I blew across against the crevice of his neck yesterday, but why would he be giving me that look right now? I don't like it either. Go change into that one. I barely heard the sales assistant either. I barely heard the sales assistant talking to Matt again as she closed the door, obstructing my view of Matt. Shaking my head from side to side, I slid the dress off and put on the other dress, which was still placed on the hanger. It was a black off-the-shoulder dress, which fell to the floor and had a split on the side of my right leg. The neckline was also cut low, exposing a bit of my breasts as well as exposing my back. Usually, I don't like these sort of dresses, but the contrast of the silver beading along the waistline of the dress against the mild exposure of my body was a nice and classy balance, perfect for tonight's event. I quickly took it off and looked at the tag, which caused my face to heat up. I was slightly embarrassed when I saw how expensive the dress was, because I knew I didn't have enough cash on me. Rain, are you still alive? Matt teased lightly. I heard the sales assistant laughing, which caused me to tense up in controlled anger. Of course, I murmured as I unlatched the lock and smiled brilliantly at the sales assistant. I'll be taking this one. I gave her the black dress and winked towards Matt. He raised his eyebrow at me, but I shrugged it off. Okay then, I'll take this to the counter. She spoke quietly, looking at Matt from beneath her eyelashes before she hurried along to do her job. But I didn't get to see it. What if it was ugly? Matt whined playfully. Trust me, Matt, it's the perfect dress for tonight, but I have to ask a favor from you. He looked at me curiously, waiting for me to ask him what I wanted from him. Is it okay if you pay for the dress and I'll pay you back? I asked quickly, but I knew he heard me when he shrugged and nodded. Yeah, sure, how much is it? I, he asked as we made our way to the counter. I smiled innocently, batting my lashes for added effect, but when I went in to tell him, I was cut off by the sales assistant who conveniently said, "The dress comes to $179.90." I knew by the pained expression on Matt's face that it took a lot for him to get out his credit card and purchase the dress. "Don't worry, I'll pay you back," I whispered in Matt's ear, which caused his body to relax slightly. It's not the money I'm worried about," he told me as we exited the store and made our way outside to his car. "Then what are you worried about?" I inquired as we continued along the familiar path towards his car. He looked at me from the corner of his eye and then looked straight ahead of him. "I just noticed that the dress has a really low neckline. Are you sure that it's wise to wear?" I almost choked aloud when I heard him say that. Out of all the things he is worried about, it has to be the low neckline of a long dress. Since when has he ever worried about checking out a woman's breast line before? "I guess we'll find out when I wear it tonight," I finally stated, though I looked anywhere but at his eyes, which I knew were directed towards my face. Tonight, I vowed, I'm really going to impress Matt. Okay, I'll be right back with another chapter. Alright, I'm back. We're going to read another chapter of Trying to Impress Matt. Hang on, I just gotta get to the next chapter. And there's just an author's note about the author being really excited about how well the story is doing. I have no idea when this is published, by the way. Hang on. Chapter 14. My heart was stammering in my chest as I gave myself a quick last look in the mirror. I could hardly recognize myself, with my hair swept out of my face in an elegant side bun. I didn't even think I had the required skill to achieve it, but with a curl ironer just sitting around on my desk and a great YouTube tutorial open on the laptop, it was possible to achieve. "Honey, are you ready?" I heard my dad ask from outside the door. "Yeah, I'm ready," I responded loudly, as I retrieved my clutch bag, which was sitting on my bed, and opened the door. My dad, who looked just about ready to end a call on his phone, just stood there staring at me. It made my already nervous heart stammer more wildly in my chest. "What is it?" I whispered, looking down at my dress and shoes. Everything seemed to be in its right place, so I was a little confused as to why my dad was staring at me like that. "Nothing. You look just like your mother. It's incredible," he whispered longingly, but then held out his hand for me to take. I smiled widely at his outstretched hand and followed him down the stairs and out of the front door, heading towards his car. Driving towards the reception hall where this gala event was taking place, my dad and I fell into a comfortable silence, with the radio playing in the background. Yet I kept glancing down at my dress, wondering if it was too much or too revealing for this event. I was so nervous. I kept thinking that when Matt takes his first glimpse of me, he will just shrug his shoulders and still look at me like I was just Joe's little sister. "You all right?" my dad asked as he drove inside the driveway of the reception hall. I looked out the window as I witnessed the afternoon sun shining away, and then looked at my dad, who was parking the car in the reserved spot with our last name embedded on the sign. "I'm a little nervous. You know how I feel about your work parties," I laughed awkwardly as I began to fiddle with my hands. "Don't worry about it. I have it under good authority that Alan Lachlan is going to be here tonight. I heard you two were working fairly well during your work experience." My dad smiled encouragingly at me as I remembered the tall and bulky black-haired guy I worked alongside with during work experience. "Yeah, we worked great together." I felt a small smile making its way onto my face as I recalled all the funny law jokes he would whisper to me as we sat in very serious court cases. "Then I will help you find him so you can feel a little more comfortable." I nodded thankfully to him as I took off my seatbelt and stepped inside the warmth that the car and stepped outside the warmth that the car provided and into the cooler afternoon. I forgot to press start on the recording again before I restarted. Hang on. Hold on a second. Okay, I don't know. Damn it. I forget where I was. Never mind, think I found it. Immediately, I felt and saw goosebumps appear on my arms, and I shivered in response. Honey, let's get inside. It's freezing out here. I made a sign of agreement and headed towards the entrance of the reception hall, with my dad tagging alongside me. You would think that being to these events every year would allow me to get used to the stares and whispers from the type of people who attend these parties, but it just continued to make me more nervous. My, se- my dad, sensing my discomfort and nervousness as we entered the reception, led me towards the side of the room, where there were chairs and tables neatly displayed in a circular arrangement. I hesitantly took the seat which had my name on it and looked around the room. I tried to smile to those who made eye contact, but it was just weird. Honey, I need to speak to a few people. Try to have some fun, my dad told me as he patted my shoulder and left. Oh, great, he is leaving me alone. How can you tell when a lawyer is lying? A familiar voice asked me as he took the seat next to mine. I turned to face the 22-year-old Alan and raised my eyebrow in amusement. I have a feeling you're about to tell me. He smirked and looked around the room before whispering in my ear, Their lips are moving. I couldn't help the laugh that escaped my lips, even though it was met with quiet glares from those around us. I missed you, I eventually told him as he leaned away from me. He smiled radiantly at me, showing me his pearly whites as he winked in my direction. A lot of women tell me that. I'm not a woman, I'm just a girl, I told him, which caused him to roll his eyes. Could have fooled me, Wayne. You look absolutely stunning tonight. Even though he voiced those words in a playful manner, his eyes were definitely doing the opposite as he began to scan my body. I have to admit, Alan is a good looking guy. With his nice wide smile and his muscular body, he was a good catch. His great sense of humor just adds to his image. You look great too, I told him truthfully. He smiled at me and then asked me if I would like to dance. I was about to decline the offer, but thought otherwise. Alan, for some strange reason, makes me feel comfortable, so why not leap at the chance while I'm stuck in this godforsaken work party? After 2 dances, my dad interrupted, asking me if I would like to meet some interesting people. I wanted to refuse, but I knew my dad had something up his sleeve, and it made me a little curious. So I did the most appropriate thing in this sort of situation and gave Alan a little peck on the cheek, thanking him for the dances. Walking towards the outskirts of the room, I noticed a man and a woman who were paying close attention to my dad and I as we walked towards them. As we got closer, I noticed the man looked to be in his mid-50s, with dark hair that was swept to the side. The woman, however, looked to be in her mid-40s, with blonde hair that cascaded down the side of her face. She appeared to be studying me with those piercing dark eyes of hers as she took a sip from her wine glass. Fred, Lorraine, this is my daughter Rain. A smile automatically appeared on my face as the man took my hand in his and shook it firmly. The smile faltered a little when the woman just stared at me, not bothering to shake my hand or make any gesture of acknowledgement. Nice to meet you both, I stated politely. The man smiled widely, but the woman seemed to not be interested. My dad, noticing this, stumbled over a few words when he was making some small talk, but but then the woman, Lorraine, I think, sighed dramatically. What's the difference between the district and Supreme Court? She asked, looking directly at me. I didn't know why I was asked this, but I answered the question easily, which made my dad smile a little. She seemed to be studying me under a new light. That's why I wasn't. Now that she knew that I knew the difference between the two courts, that's why I wasn't surprised when she asked me more questions about the legal system. My answers seemed to be longer and more thought out as she continued to ask me harder questions. Eventually, the man interrupted, telling Lorraine to stop asking questions. You might just have what it takes to be successful in this industry, Lorraine finally said, surprising me with a compliment. Thanks, but I'm only 17 and still have to finish another year of high school. My preferences might change, I said to Lorraine, not noticing that my dad and that man Fred have left me alone with her. You're only 17? She asked, looking surprised. Yeah, I am. I turn 18 next February. I smiled a little, but it faltered when I saw her thinking about something. Well, I guess I shall be expecting you to join our university once you have sat your finals next year. My eyes widened at this new revelation. I mean, is she like a lecturer or something? I guess, if you don't mind me asking, what university do you work in? I asked shyly. She smiled like she found something humorous in my question before she turned serious again. Well, I'm the headmistress at the University of Sydney. Once I recovered from my initial shock at talking to the headmistress of the best university in Australia, I politely excused myself and walked outside the reception hall. Immediately, the cool air hit my bare skin and I shivered uncontrollably. I began to lightly warm up my arms by rubbing them with my hands, but it was no use. I should have brought my jacket with me. The sun was beginning to set now, even though it was just after 8 p.m., and I blamed daylight savings for that one. However, I couldn't have stepped into the evening at a better time. The sky looked gorgeous, with dark and light hues of red, orange, and purple, bringing a smile onto my face despite the coolness of the bitter air. "Aren't you cold out here?" an all too familiar voice asked. As soon as he stood beside me, my heart began to race, and my hands, which were working on warming up my arms, started to become sweaty and moist. "Just a little bit," I answered quietly. I was still looking at the sky, with my side profile visible to his, so I didn't think he noticed me yet. "How about I escort you inside?" he asked with that deep, seductive voice that I have come to love about him. It caused my already pounding heart to accelerate. "I just need to stay outside for a little bit," I finally muttered. "Well, then, I'm going to stay out here with you. I need to be alone, too. I hate these things." He whispered the last part in my ear, and I giggled because his lips tickled the crevice between my neck and ear. "I know what you mean. I hate these things too, but I'm out here because I just got complimented by the headmistress of Sydney Uni," I told him, still shocked at how impressed Lorraine seemed to be with me. "Is that so?" he asked amusedly. I turned around then, so that I was facing him directly. Because of the heels that I was wearing, I was almost his height, meaning the gap between our lips could be met if either of us took that little step forward. With this in mind, my heart began to race again, and it caused my cheeks to burn. Looking into his dark eyes, I saw how they widened when he took in my features. I knew he knew it was me, but he looked so surprised that it made me feel weird. What if he didn't find me attractive? What if he didn't like my dress? I was getting paranoid, and it was really pissing me off. "Should I return the dress?" I asked softly, watching his eyes take me in. He just shook his head, looking like he was unable to make any words. Maybe we should head inside. It's getting darker now, and our parents are probably wondering where we are." Walking towards the entrance of the hall, a hand holding onto my arm stopped me, and I was momentarily stunned at the scorching heat searing into my skin. "We are not going inside," he told me angrily. I was confused as to why he was suddenly pissed off at me, that I didn't realize that his hands were still holding onto my arm. "And why is that, Matt?" I asked just as angrily. All thoughts of trying to impress him went flying out of the window as I matched his glare with my own. I didn't know where all this hostility of mine came from, but what I did know is that I'm getting sick of Matt not noticing me as more than his best friend's little sister. "You are not my father," I spat. "Damn straight I'm not your father," he responded flatly. His eyes, which were now hidden within the dark depths of the night, suddenly intrigued me enough to realize that they were in fact black. Not brown, not dark brown, but black. I've seen this look before, and it made my heart flutter nervously. "Rain, you look—" "Don't say it," I interrupted him, sounding defeated. "But no, Matt, I don't want to hear you calling me fake or ugly or whatever." I knew that I was overreacting, but I think it was my heart and mind's way of telling me not to stay hopeful. "Rain, I wasn't going to call you any of those things," he said in astonishment. Obviously, the look I gave him told him I didn't believe him, so he sighed and smirked softly. "I was going to tell you something that could get me in a hell of a lot of trouble." He suddenly looked down at his hands, which were still holding onto my arm, and softly, almost caringly, caressed up and down my arm. Oh God, he has got to know that his touch is making me go crazy. "What sort of trouble?" I asked him back, searching his eyes for any sort of hint as to what he was thinking about. For a few moments we just watched each other, and it was killing me that I couldn't figure out what was going on in his head. I wanted to scream out my feelings for him, but knew it was too soon, and too freaky to put that on him. I also wanted to take a step closer and feel his lips against mine, but I couldn't do that either. "A lot of trouble," he finally said, taking a step back as he took his hands off of my arms. I was a little hurt by this, but I refused to let this get me down. "Are you afraid of trouble?" I asked again, stepping closer to Matt. He looked surprised at my boldness, but I also saw specks of something else hidden in his eyes. "No," he finally told me, causing me to break out in a wide smile. "But we should get inside. You're shaking." Alright, that was an interesting ending. A little bit annoying, but anyway. I'll be right back. Okay, I decided I'm done recording for tonight, so I'm just gonna do the outro. I love each and every single one of you guys. Please don't forget to always be yourself. Um, you are valid, and I will see you all in the next video. And, I'm planning to record for 3 to 4 hours tomorrow. I might be doing some of it in my bedroom, probably, because the landlord has to come in to do a few things around the house, and I'm really ticked off, but whatever. I don't get a say in it, so whatever. This is stupid. But anyway, I'm probably gonna be doing at least some of it in my bedroom, but hopefully most of it in the living room. Anyway, I love you guys, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!